Namaste to all and greetings on 88th Air Force Day. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce you today Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, a decorated distinguished flying officer of India. He was a flying instructor and also he was Air Officer Commander in Chief of Training Command. He has been decorated with Ati Vishishta Seva Medal and Param Vishishta Seva Medal for his exemplary work. Participated in 1971 war and thereafter he has also contributed a lot to Operation Parakram and Kargil war also as a strategist, as a planner, as a senior officer of Indian Air Force. At present, he is consultant to the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and consultant Defence Research Development Organization. He has contributed a lot in the missile system of Indian defence. A strategist, a planner, an intellectual warrior, a cyber security expert, Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale has been very active in the education field also post his retirement. He is the chairman of Maharashtra Education Society, of which he is also a past student. I welcome Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale to enlighten all us on this Air Force Day.
It's indeed a very proud privilege that today, on the 8th of October 2020, the Indian Air Force is celebrating its 88th anniversary and entered into the 89th service, a glorious service with a motto of, as you know, the Indian Air Force motto is taken from Gita, which says Nabhas Prasham Deeptam, which means touch the sky with glory. And they have been doing that ever since they were formed in 1932. On 8th October 1932, when Indian Air Force got formed, as all of you would know, India was still not independent. We were under the British. But at that time, the British realized that they would want to have allied air forces, so they started forming in South Africa, Australia, and many other places, including India. And the Indian Air Force pilots of those times, we really thank them because they laid a very firm foundation to the Indian Air Force on which today the entire Air Force has been built up. You might have heard of the legendary names like Subrata Mukherjee, Marshal Arjun Singh. So all these people have helped in making Indian Air Force the strong that it is today. The Indian Air Force took part along with the Royal Air Force as well as the American Air Force in the Second World War. And at that time, apart from taking some part in the northwest side, main campaign was in Burma. And you'll be surprised, today we talk about in Ladakh facing the expansionist Chinese moves, and the Indian Air Force is getting ready to whatever contingencies they may arise. At that time, over the hump as is called, that means all closer to Burma, that time now Myanmar, the Indian Air Force along with the Royal Air Force were helping the army to drop troops into China to fight against Japanese. They were also supplying rations, arms, ammunition, and as such, actually those were the days when we were helping Chinese big way. So look at the paradox that today we are now facing China, which is doing this kind of expansionist policy. So after that Second World War, there was a great amount of experience our pilots gained. And soon after that, as you know, when 1945, the Second World War ended and we got independence on 15th of August. At that time, the Americans as well as the British took most of their aircraft away back into their own countries, especially the heavy bombers they took back. And they left behind the Spitfires and some of the aircraft including Dakotas for transportation. We had 10 fighter squadrons at that time, but with Pakistan having been formed, these 10 squadrons were split, with 6 coming to India, 3 going to Pakistan, and 1 squadron of transport aircraft, or what is used for logistics purposes, that was split into half-half. And as such, we started with 6.5 squadrons in 1947. But I must add here that within a short time of the aviation having started by Wright brothers in 1903, aviation has become so important in the last many years that it is firstly added a vertical dimension. You can see from top, which otherwise was not possible. It has also been able to compress the time and distance. So you can now go to continents within no time. And as such, you find that these characteristics of the Air Force were very important. And so, air power and now what is called as the contiguous aerospace power has become very, very important in today's warfare. So, starting with some of the attributes of the air power are, firstly, it gives you surprise because you don't know from where will the aircraft attack. It also gives you flexibility because even in the air you can change targets. It also gives surprise and flexibility, and it gives you offensive action because it is something which you can use instantly, almost like if we get an order today, tonight we'll be able to take on any task which is across the borders, and that gives a lot of amount of offensive spirit which is not possible for our two sister services to do so reaction so very fast. So these attributes add to the Indian Air Force's capability. I was mentioning about the Indian Air Force's attributes. One of the important is the offensive action. And on that, I always like to mention to everybody, and I must say even to the youngsters, that please don't call us defense forces, call us armed forces. Don't call us, हिंदी में बताएं तो संरक्षित सेना मत कहिए, सशस्त्र सेना कहिए. इससे एक मानसिकता बढ़ती है. यू आर नॉट ऑन द बैक फुट. जैसे कि आप कोई भी गेम खेल रहे हो, स्पोर्ट्स खेल रहे हो, तो कभी बैकफुट पे आप जीतेंगे नहीं. टेक एग्जाम्पल ऑफ फुटबॉल. यू आर ऑल 11 इन योर ओन गोल, सो मे बी तुम्हारे ऊपर गोल नहीं होगा, बट हाउ विल यू एवर विन द मैच? सो यू नीड ऑफेंसिव एक्शन, एंड दैट इज द स्पिरिट, एंड दैट इज द स्पिरिट ऑफ यंग इंडिया. When they are taking industries abroad, they are buying industries abroad, whether they have all that, what they are doing across everywhere is what is there, and that is very important is the mental strength. For that, you must refer yourself as Shashastra Sena, or like as I keep saying, armed forces and not defense force. Defense force means you tend to be always on the back foot. Somebody else has already taken initiative. So please guard against this and make sure that you are proud Indians. So within 10 weeks of our independence, to be precise, on 26th of October 1947, when the Razakas had come into the Srinagar valley and were just about 20 kilometers from Srinagar, then Maharaja Hari Singh signed the Treaty of Accession with India. And the very next morning, that is on 27th of October, our Indian Air Force aircraft took off from then Safdarjung Airport for Srinagar with the Indian Army troops, and within no time turned the tide in favor of India. We not only drove all the Razakas back, but we recaptured all the area they had taken from our Jammu and Kashmir. Our aircraft had even started operating in Leh, and we could have, frankly speaking, taken on the entire Kashmir. But unfortunately, after about a year's war, the war was stopped. I'm not getting into the reasons, the politics or otherwise behind it. But because of the war was stopped abruptly, what we could have got was the entire Kashmir. Today, unfortunately, 1/3 of Kashmir is with Pakistan, and part of which has been given to Chinese. I call this that the first time in India's independent history that the history and geography of India changed unfavorably for India. And this, the Air Force actually had done such wonderful action because the very next day they had taken troops across to Srinagar, which changed, actually speaking, the battle. This offensive spirit, this tatparta, or this kind of a quick reaction is the key of Indian Air Force. But see what happened in the next subsequent years. While we did take more fighter aircraft, we even bought Canberra bomber aircraft, but we did not pay attention to the east. And so when the Chinese were actually speaking on the back foot because of Korean War, they were already having problems with Soviet Union, but they took advantage of what was then called the Cuban crisis, when America and US Soviet Union were busy. In October 1962, they attacked us. Unfortunately, because of intelligence failure and intelligence incorrect assessment, the Indian Air Force was never used offensively. We used it, but only for transportation, we used it for some logistics, some helicopters were used, but we had our fighter aircraft all the way into Tezpur, in Hashimara, Bagdogra, in the entire south of Arunachal Pradesh, as we call it. We never used Indian Air Force. We could have used it even when the Chinese had come all the way closer to Tezpur when they were returning in November. We could have just dropped bombs on the road sides, and all that, would have, the bombing would have resulted into landslides and blocked the roads on which the Chinese were going back. We could have had prisoners, and the whole history and geography would have changed. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and we lost the war. But one thing happened on 20th of November when the Chinese were going back, is that Maharashtra's then first Chief Minister, Yashwantrao Chavan, was made the Raksha Mantri. And one good thing he did was he brought what is called the synergy or samanvay. He brought the bureaucrats, the military and the politicians together on one table, and he said, let's discuss freely, frankly, what is required, because as you know, the morale of entire India was down, and of course that of the armed forces. But he made sure that we got re-equipped, we got more confident, and within just about 2.5 years, when Pakistan was wanting to take advantage of this situation, in 1965, under General Ayub Khan, who was that time Field Marshal Ayub Khan as the President of Pakistan and Bhutto as the Foreign Minister, they did what is called the Operation Gibraltar, by which the Pakistani troops, something like 20,000, had got into the Kashmir Valley. And Bhutto has told Ayub Khan that time that on 14th of August, the Pakistani flag will fly in Lal Chowk, and by 8th of September, they would come to Delhi. That was the kind of thing which he spoke, and this has all been quoted by none other than Ayub Khan's own son, who later on became the foreign minister of Pakistan. He said how he was cheated by his own foreign minister. Because reverse happened. The proud Kashmiris, at the cost of their own lives, something like 200 of them died. But they told the police, they told the Indian Army, and we captured these all 20,000 troops. And not only that, there is an episode that General Chaudhary, Army Chief, he comes into Yashwantraoji's office and he brings along with him Marshal Arjun Singh. That time he was only, of course, not Marshal but an Air Commodore. And he was the chief that time of Indian Air Force. And his Cham area, as you know, near Jammu, Pakistani tanks had now penetrated. So he wanted Air Force to be brought into use. So General Chaudhary asked Mr. Y.B. Chavan that can we use Indian Air Force? And this has been captured in a movie, a biopic which is on Y.B. Chavan, done by none other than Jabbar Patel. That incident where Y.B. Chavan picks up the phone to contact Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was the Prime Minister, but the phones were not the kind that we have today. So the communication didn't go through, and now it was getting late. It was in the afternoon that these people had come into his office. So he could not consult the Prime Minister, but he himself said, go ahead, use the Indian Air Force. So he said, Arjun, go ahead and help them out. So our aircraft took off from Ambala and Pathankot and attacked these tanks, and we made sure that a lot of tanks were destroyed and the Pakistanis could not advance. Of course, we lost some of our pilots. They got वीर गति को गए वो, और इतना भी होने के बावजूद we were on the contrary in the offensive. Indian Army had reached the outskirts of Lahore and Sialkot, but again the war had been stopped. And then Tashkent took place, and whatever we had gained, whatever territory we had taken from Pakistan, including the famous Hajipur Pass, we had to give back. So I keep saying always that winning war is of course most important, but how to end the war is equally important. We didn't end the war properly in 47, 48. We didn't end the war in 62. We didn't end the war in 65. We earned everything and we gave it back. But then the golden period came, was the 1971 war. And as you know, it was the 62 war which catalyzed my elder brother and me to joining the armed forces. My elder brother in 1963 joined the army, and in 1964 I joined the Indian Air Force. We are both from National Defence Academy here, Khadakwasla, and of course I became a fighter pilot. Both of us coincidentally took part in 1971 war, initially in the east. Of course he remained in the east, but I went both east as well as to the west, because the East Indian Air Force had already, after about 3-4 days, done an entire what is called the air superiority over East Pakistan that time. So in 1971 was a golden period where all the three services were very greatly united and with a common goal. I keep saying, even in the management when you talk about, there has to be aim. And that aim was steadfastly taken, that Dhaka must fall and must fall at the earliest. So it's a record that when on the 3rd of December 1971, when the Pakistani Air Force attacked 10 of our bases in the west, I was in the first strike itself, we were sleeping in the squadron listening to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi giving announcement about the war to good start. And early morning on the 4th, our Air Force started attacking in Bangladesh, then in East Pakistan. And of course within, as I said, 3-4 days, their entire Air Force and their targets were absolutely nullified. And it's a record, I must say, in the entire world, that within 13 days a new country was born, Bangladesh. And what we did was, we brought all our troops back. Nobody stayed behind to run that government. We gave it away to Bangladesh as an independent country to run. So this is the good part of India. This is our culture. We didn't do any kind of, we didn't do any robbery there, or we didn't start to, do anything to the women there. None of that. This is our Indian culture which is most important. And that is there seeped into the Indian armed forces also. So this kind of a war, which again we did not end properly, because when Simla Agreement took place, all the 93,000 prisoners that we had got from East Pakistan were returned. And actually Bhutto went to Karachi and said, "Oh, I have won the war, actually speaking, because I brought all my people back." But then, this is part of the history. The Indian Air Force has all this while not only been fighting war, gaining experience, but always thinking ahead. What is good about the Indian Air Force is, most of the people, as in the field as well as in the decision making, have always looked at futuristic systems which are good for India and for making sure that you can win the wars. So we started having different types of aircraft. Some were for close combat, some were for deep strikes like Jaguar, the MiG-23, which I commanded myself. I went to Russia for training. And likewise, many other were done, including the bombers. And then we started also thinking of air-to-air refueling. I remember when I flown both inside the refueler as well as in a Sukhoi, which is here right in front of me, as to when you can plug in and get more fuel. You see, what happened was, since we were focused on Pakistan border and the Chinese border, most of our air bases were along the border. But we realized that we have so much of depth in India, which is not there in Pakistan. Pakistan, as you know, in 71 war, took their aircraft away into Iran and into some of the Arab countries because they knew that they can't run away into Afghanistan. So they have very less depth. But India has too much of lot of depth. So we said, why not have air bases in the depth like Pune is? And from Pune, with air-to-air refueling, within about 3.5 hours, you can go and strike any target, especially in the Western theatre. So we had that. We had AWACS coming in, which is a radar-mounted aircraft on the top, which gives you tremendous amount of coverage, which we used. During Balakot, next day, as you know, you might have heard that when the Pakistanis came in, we also use AWC, which is there here on top, which is on the Embraer platform, made in India as far as the radar is concerned. And we have used that even in Balakot almost till the last minute when our aircraft were going across to actually strike the target. So Indian Air Force is battle hardy. It took part in Siachen, and I remember I was there in Halwara those days. In May of 1984, what we did was our helicopter boys, wonderful amount of work they do in Siachen. Siachen, as you know, in Tibetan language is Valley of Roses. And it's a very crucial area. It is an area which, as you know, is very close to Karakoram Pass, where, as you know, at the moment, the Chinese are building their road all the way to Gwadar through Pakistan. So Siachen, which is considered to be the highest, the coldest, and the longest war going on since 84. But we captured in 84 and threw the Pakistanis away. And because the helicopters, we had General Kulkarni, was a captain that time, and they all went and captured these high posts. Of course, the battle continued. We had some casualties. That is, of course, we pay respect to all the people who have fallen there. They have been injured, and because of their sacrifices, but we are continuing to be there. Today, Siachen is equally important and is being eyed by the Chinese, especially when they are in Ladakh, because there are rare earths. I have been there, and if any of you have gone to Leh, you will know there is Magnetic Hill, there is Garnet Hill, there are all kinds of things near this Pangong Tso Lake. So all these wealth which is there is Urja there, what is called energy, there is solar, wind energy, all these are very important aspects, and we are there now very firmly. We have made sure that we have got gas pipeline, fiber optics, the troops are comfortable, there is satellite communication. So as we have gone ahead in the years, we have made sure that our army troops are very well looked after. We have our Air Force units there. I have been there myself. We have gone there to give sweets to our troops, etc. And likewise, the morale is very high. The morale of the Indian Air Force, because they know that they're speaking from strength. They know their experience. And the Siachen, you must know, has also an important aspect on Kargil war. What had happened? Then Major Musharraf, he lost in Siachen. So he was all the time, burning with kind of a anger as to how is it that I was defeated. So what he did was, he waited for an opportunity. And as you know, all our prime ministers, including the present honorable prime ministers, have tried to be friendly with neighbors. Naturally, it's good to have friendly neighbors. But like Atalji has said very rightly, you can change your friends but not your neighbors. So we have to live by these neighbors. So even Mananiya Modi ji, for his first swearing in ceremony in 2014, called all the neighboring heads of state, including Nawaz Sharif had come. In 2019, the BIMSTEC countries' chiefs had come. So likewise, we try to make sure that our friends with our neighbors. But then how the neighbors behave, we have to be ready for it. But Pakistan is something which has been taking the Bangladesh defeat as something for which they have to somehow make sure that they try and take whatever their aim is, and that is basically Kashmir. So they know they are not strong enough, so they do this, what is called as the terrorism continuously. And then we have to make sure that we answer to that. So what he did during Kargil was, while then Prime Minister Atalji had gone in Lahore bus yatra in 99 February, actually speaking, during these winter months, both Pakistani and the Indian troops come down from the snow-covered peaks. But Pakistanis never came down. We came down and they occupied our troop posts. And now they were on the top and overlooking the road which goes from Srinagar to Leh via Kargil. And that road is very important because that road gives all the supplies to Siachen. And he wanted to make sure that road gets cut off. So they started attacking all the convoys who were coming towards Kargil and all the Dras in that area. And we were suffering casualties. We realized this in month of May of 99. As you know, in 98, both the countries have gone nuclear. So there was a bit of a tension in the world. But in May, when this war started, and we wanted to throw these people who were on the top, lot of young army, young officers and men, they died because when you are climbing up, the enemy has a much better chance to keep shooting down. He has all the visibility. And with this, you must have heard about, Major Batra and many other brave soldiers who died, Dil Mange More. And then on the 21st of June, we sent a Canberra aircraft to Recce. Our Canberra was shot up. Then we sent a MiG-27 and a MiG-21, and both these aircraft got shot down. And we had Nachiketa, who was made prisoner but returned after 7 days. But the MiG-21, piloted by one Ahuja, that aircraft, when it was shot, the pilot, people had seen him ejecting, but they returned the body with all kinds of marking on it. They did not live up to the Geneva Convention of returning the pilot as a prisoner, like what they did later after world pressure, but they on the contrary killed him, and they did all kinds of nonsense with it. So this is the kind of culture we have to fight. But we owe people like Ahuja and many others. We also lost a helicopter in which 5 people died, and then we learned a lot of lessons because we were all the time getting ready for fighting in the plains of Punjab and Sindh and all that area. But this mountainous area, so we had to now devise ways to make sure that we can win this particular. So what we did was, on the Mirage aircraft, we had what is called the laser guided bombs, very accurate. And then we started using laser guided bombs where you don't come into range of the surface to air missiles like Stinger or the Chinese missiles which the Pakistani troops had. Pakistan initially denied that they were actually soldiers. They said no, they are all our mujahideens. But later on, when we found their identity cards and all, they were actually Pakistani soldiers. And it's so sad that we as Indians, we value not only a living soldier, but when he gives sacrifice, we have a great service for him. You might have seen on television and various places, we are always indebted to such a homage that we have to pay. Pakistanis never claimed those bodies. हमने उनको शहादत दी. We buried those people. They did not even inform their parents as to their children must have died. That is the kind of psychology that we are fighting with. So that is how we have been learning over the period of experience and getting stronger by the day. We have realized the laser guided bomb. We have realized that how the aircraft, what we have to modernize, whether it is in the fighter stream, whether it's in helicopter, whether it's transport. And that is why you notice that when on 14th of February last year, we had the CRPF bus attack and 40 people died. There was anger in the entire country. But these things are done very patiently, and we must give full credit to the decision making by the Honorable Prime Minister and of course to all other services, that they waited for a good chance, like what they did during Uri strike. Similarly, they did not announce because surprise is most important. So on the 26th of February, when there was a lot of time actually had taken place, it has an importance. 25th February, if you all had noticed, we had our inauguration of what is called as a National Memorial. India Gate in Delhi has a memorial, but that is for Indian soldiers who have died in the First and Second World War. It is not for post-independence. This particular one, which has been inaugurated on 25th of February, is for the Indian soldiers, airmen, sailors who have died after independence. And that was inaugurated in the evening of 25th of February. And nobody at that time knew that at night, Indian Air Force was getting ready to strike Balakot. And what did we do? We did not take civilian target. We did not take any military target. And it was an excellent kind of a planning that had been done. We went and attacked with spice bombs, as it's called. There is a tail unit which is used, which makes sure that it hits and it penetrates the concrete and thereafter, as you know, there have been a lot of studies carried out. As you know, the death count is a very important thing. There are controversies, but let me confess and tell you, you see, when a person dies, his identity is found out by many means, whether it's a ration card, whether it's Aadhaar card, whether it is a email address which goes away, whether it is mobile phone goes away. So it takes time for things to happen. But we know now what exactly picture is. A lot of Western journalists have also written about it. So there is always this information warfare that takes place. There is also this, trying to spread rumors through media, and which is very easy these days, especially when you have not only the electronic or the print media, but also the WhatsApp media or the what is called as the social media. So we got to be very clear as to who are you listening to, what is the authority behind that man, what is the exactly the realism he is speaking. And why I mention this, I personally have experience of briefing then, thrice I have done it, but briefing Prime Minister Atalji along with his ministers, CCS it's called. It was during Operation Parakram. Operation Parakram, as you know, in 2001 December, attack took place on our parliament. And at that time, again, the whole India was shaken up and they said, no, we have to take revenge. So we were all ready. Air Force, of course, was ready immediately to go in. But Army had taken time to about a month to make sure that they are all gathered. Navy was also getting ready. And at that time, there was an attack on Jambu temple in month of March. So we were called for briefing. From the Army, there was General Vij. I was from the Air Force. Two of us gave briefing. And let me tell you, it's very important that when you are briefing people of that stature, people of that importance, whose decision making is very, very important, you have to speak the truth. You have to can't do just some, no, don't worry, sir, we'll do that, we'll do this, etc. You got to speak by facts. You got to speak by conviction, because the decision can go wrong here and there by just your bravado. So I briefed exactly what it is. That part I don't want to get into, but I must say that this is a responsibility. Or if, as and when any of you youngsters come to that stature, and it can be different fields. It doesn't have to be only the armed forces. It could be maybe could be your, any other industry or any other kind of a ministry or any other inputs that you're wanting to give. They must be very frank and very correct. It can be starting even from ward level, at municipal level, if we have a very frank and free dialogue, decisions are taken transparently, we'll find India will go leaps and bounds ahead. And that is the kind of a thing where, as I say, synergy of decision making, speaking frankly, speaking truthfully is very important. So today, as we come to the Air Force Founding Day, with this kind of a background, with this kind of a battle hardiness, we are very confident, though our numbers have gone down. Actually speaking, Tata Committee after 62 had said that we should have 66 squadrons. But we have gone down. In 71 war, we had reached 44 squadrons. That is, I am talking about combat squadrons. We have come down to 30. And I want to say here that, you see, one fine can't day say, okay, here is a lot of money and then you can go and buy 500 aircraft. It can't happen. You might get aircraft. But what about pilots? What about technicians? What about the support staff? What about logistics? It takes time to build up. It takes time to train people. So human resource is very important. And that requires 3, 4, 5 years of gestation period when you can absorb this new technology and make sure that you can use it operationally. So when budgetary constraints are there, naturally, there is always a dialogue between guns and butter, whether it's education, health. Like in Corona, we have found now we have to make sure that our health infrastructure comes up. But we have to make sure that there is a continuous upgradation which is maintained in the armed forces, so that last minute you are not hastily buying things. And Atmanirbharta is very important. I think these couple of policies which have come recently of making sure that 105 weapon systems will not be imported anymore, and in that even helicopters and transport aircraft have come. I think it's a very good thing, because that will make sure that our public sector, that is HAL, BAL, all those, plus private sector has been engaged, whether it is the Pune-based, Bharat Forge, or whether it is Larsen Toubro, whether it's Tata's, or Mahindra. They'll all contribute and make sure that we can make in India and take make sure that our import bills are reduced, because we are buying things and we are unfortunately reached a stage where almost world's number one importing nation. So we should now reverse that trend. We are in Air Force in particular, we have been very supportive of Indians indigenization. We have got Akash missile, which has become very, very important now. We have made already Akash Mark II. As I said, we made some of the systems here. We are now Atmanirbhar in radars. We are Atmanirbhar in helicopters. We are inching towards the fighter aircraft by making LCA, that is Tejas, LCA Mark II, MCA, but we don't have aero engine as yet, which is unfortunate part. So we have to take steps by which whatever we don't have, we can make in India. So this is something that will happen, may not be tomorrow, but as the youngsters, I would urge all of you that you must get into this kind of a startups, the technology, and make sure that India becomes strong internally. It must stand on its own feet and must make sure that import bills are reduced. Also, I must say that when I'm addressing all the youngsters and the leaders of tomorrow, I'm not only addressing the men, I'm also addressing the women, because we call Indian Air Force, all of us as air warriors. We don't differentiate. We don't differentiate between religion, caste, which region, language. We don't differentiate between gender. As you know, today we have one of the largest number of women officers in the Indian Air Force. We have not only they're flying helicopters. You might have seen the movie of Gunjan Saxena. She got a Kirti Chakra in Kargil. We have helicopter pilots, transport pilots, and now 10 are flying fighters. And one of them is now going to be flying Rafale. One of them is going to be flying Sukhois. So we find that, I'm from Maharashtra Education Society. I studied in that school and I'm now chairman there. We have a Rani Lakshmibai Sainiki school only for girls, 650 girls, of which 15 have become officers in different Army, Navy, Air Force. So I will urge all the youth of tomorrow, the girls and boys of tomorrow, that rise up to this Indian, kind of a culture, the ethos, our great civilization, and make sure that India reaches the correct place in the world community as a very responsible and a good country, and lives up to the motto of Indian Air Force, motto of, as I said, Navas Prasham Deeptam. I will add Nava and Avakasha Deeptam. Current Avakash also is now in our reach. We are going to space. Next year when Gaganyaan is going, 2 of our Indian Air Force pilots would be there in Gaganyaan. Already Rakesh Sharma was there in one of the Soviet aircraft as our Antaral Veer or astronaut. So likewise you will find that air and space and aerospace, so that's why I'm saying Nabha as well as Avakash Sprasham Deeptam. I wish the Indian Air Force and the entire country of ours all the very best on this Foundation Day for Indian Air Force, and assure you that whatever contingencies come up, Indian Air Force will always be ready with your support and with your best wishes. Thank you. Jai Hind.